Hey guys, Mike Thornton here. If you're interested in buying your first rental property, this is the video for you. I'm taking you through 14 critical steps to ensure that you're lowering your risk and increasing your odds of being profitable on your first rental. So stay with me. All right, number one, do your research. Do exactly what you're doing right now. Be watching videos. Be learning from folks that are already in the game. I can't recommend enough some of the resources from biggerpockets.com. I also think from a mindset perspective, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki is an incredible resource. There's so many great places out there, hopefully this channel included, to get you educated on exactly why you might want to get into rental real estate, because you really need to be grounded in why this is important to you. Number two, you need to determine what your metrics are for success. Now, there's a couple metrics that many investors, including myself, look at that are important to me, such as cash flow, cash on cash return, and cap rate. And those are metrics that I'm looking at, but you might have a different set of metrics. So it's really critical that you understand what it is that those metrics mean and what success looks like to you. Because when you start looking at deals and you start researching, when you run the numbers, you need to be very clear on what a deal looks like. So it's really important to understand for whatever market you're getting into, what a deal may look like, what the market value of something is, whether it's using cap rate or cash on cash return, and then understand for yourself what a deal looks like. All right, number three, identify which market to invest in. Now, there could be benefits in investing right in your backyard. If you're interested in building a team and scaling this as a business, it may make sense to invest in an area that you're already familiar with, that you may have contacts already. However, it could also make sense to do out-of-town investing. There might be markets that are up and coming, that have migration patterns that are favoring those markets, that have job growth, that have income growth, that are really on fire and really great places to look at as far as rental portfolio goes. But again, you may not know those markets, and it may take you a little bit longer to get familiar with those markets, and more importantly, to get your team set up in order to be successful. Either way, identify a market, focus in on that market, and really do your research rather than having a super broad scope. Number four, partner with a top realtor in whatever market you choose to invest in. This is super critical. This is somebody that's investor friendly or even an investor themselves. Somebody that really understands the in and outs of the market, what areas are up and coming, what makes a great tenant, things like that. This is a super important person. It should be somebody that's a connector that can help introduce you to other folks like contractors, property managers, etc. So this is somebody that's super important for your team. I'm licensed here in Illinois, and I bought a rental property about 2 hours away. I could have represented myself, but I saw enough value in somebody that knew that market inside and out, that had the connections. So I didn't even represent myself when buying that property. I saw enough value, and more than enough value, quite frankly, to hire a realtor out there that knows the ropes, understands the rental market, and I can't explain to you how valuable that's been. So that's definitely an important person in your team that you should identify right away. Number five, build out the rest of your team. Now, the realtor should be somebody that's connecting you to other great professionals in the marketplace, like a property manager, like a great lender, an attorney, an inspector, a general contractor. You are going to have to build out a team, and that realtor, if they're worth their salt, should be somebody that's connecting you to the other best service partners in the area. It's super important to have a team when investing in whatever market you choose. And I highly, highly suggest using a property manager. I know some folks give advice to manage the property yourself in order to get experience. I do see some value in that. But if you ever have a desire to scale this, I almost don't think you waste any time. You want to get in, you want to build those connections. You can still learn alongside a good property manager, but you don't need to be the one answering the phone call. I think you'll get burned out if you manage that property for too long. Again, if you want to do it for a little bit up front, totally understand that. But very quickly, you should be moving into a property manager to do that for you, so you can free up your headspace to be analyzing more deals and to scale your business. Number six, start viewing property and making offers. Now, in most areas of the country, it's super, super competitive right now. So I'd be talking to your realtor about whatever properties haven't hit the market yet or are on a private network, or also called pocket listings. Try to get your hands on that. Also, be open to different asset classes that may be under the radar a little bit. In our market, multifamily homes are so competitive, they almost never hit the market, but there is an opportunity with 2 to 4 unit properties in a lower price range, a little bit further out from the city. So that's a little bit of a pocket in addition to just detached single family homes. I know it's tougher for big investors to scale properly with a bunch of detached single family homes, but if somebody just starting out, that is a great way to learn the ropes, and that is a great asset class as far as a safer investment goes. One that's always going to be in high demand if you're buying something that's roughly the average trading price in a given market, or under that, of course. 3-bed, 4-bed. That's the type of house somebody always wants and provides you ultimate exit strategies if you ever need to sell that property. All right, number 7, you're going to finally execute a contract, conduct an inspection, and make sure you secure your financing so that you can close on the property. All right, number 7, execute a contract, conduct your inspection, secure your financing, and ultimately close on your property. This is where it gets fun. But before getting to the closing table, again, there's some very important steps. So make sure you conduct a general inspection. In some markets, there may even be a la carte type inspection services to consider. In our market, it's very common to test for radon gas. I know in other markets, it's very common to test for termites, etc. So just talk to your realtor, get a recommendation on exactly what you should be inspecting so that you can ensure this house is in good shape before you close on it. All right, number 8, prep your home for marketing. So this at least entails a professional cleaning, some touch-ups, paint, things like that. Or you may decide that you're going to renovate something to help increase rents. That's totally okay too. Build out a plan, understand what your positive return on investment items are, and execute it in a timely manner so that you can get this property rented out. All right, number 9, you're going to put this home up for rent. I highly recommend, again, working with your trusted realtor to do this. You should have professional photos done, maybe even some light staging and accessory items to help warm the space up to really set yourself apart so that you can secure top market rent. Number 10, you need to vet out your applicants. I recommend the first thing is to have a potential tenant submit a paper application to you to understand how many people are going to be living at the property, what are their incomes, are there any pets, are there references, things like that. If that looks good on paper, then you want to go and do a background check and a credit check. There are many online resources that you can use. We actually use a website called mysmartmove.com. It works well for us. There are others as well, and that can even be at the tenant's expense to pay for that service. That way you have exactly what you need from a credit perspective. If there's any criminal behavior that you need to be aware of, things like that, you will have everything you need at that point to make a strong decision for yourself. All right, number 11, you're going to execute a thorough lease agreement. This is something that you could even have your property manager do on your behalf so that you just remove yourself from interactions with the tenant. It helps reduce your liability somewhat. Many investors will have a property purchased in an LLC or move it into an LLC, or even others will purchase it within a trust. Whatever it takes to remove yourself from interaction with that tenant, because you just never know what can happen, and you want to be a little bit more difficult to find. You want to be difficult to track down in case any sort of lawsuit, God forbid, comes up. So again, talk to your property manager, see if they can actually execute these documents on your behalf, and that's a really smart thing. All right, number 12, you always want to make sure that your property manager is doing an initial walkthrough with the tenant so you know exactly what condition the property is before the tenant moves in. This is important because once that tenant moves out and you do an exit interview and an exit walkthrough, you're going to compare what you saw when that tenant moved in to when that tenant moved out. It's going to be much more difficult to basically take part of the security deposit for repairs and things like that if you don't know what the initial condition was. All right, number 13, you're going to collect the security deposit and your first month's rent up front. You are not going to hand over the keys until you have that in your hands. Again, we always collect both of those up front together, and I think that works very well. You do not want to hand over your keys until you have that money in hand. And number 14, you're going to stabilize the property, rinse, and repeat. Now, what do I mean by stabilize? Simply get 6 or 9 months under your belt. What I found is most of the repair requests and things come up right away. So after you buy this property and you get your first tenant in there, I really think you're going to see the most service calls right up front now that somebody's finally living in that property again, and get that thing stabilized. Make sure those calls start to quiet down and that you have a few checks coming in, you build some reserves before you start shopping for your next property. Again, I hope that helps. Those are the 14 critical steps that will help ensure that you're profitable, that you're taking on the least amount of risk as possible, that you're staying as anonymous as possible from the public as you scale your rental portfolio. If you have any steps that you think are also wise, please leave them in the comments. Send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. We just love our investment community, and we're always learning ourselves. So please comment below, and we'll talk to you soon.